Here's my last question.
Success.
So, what is the best decade of horror other than the 80s, and why?
Mike, I want you to go because I want to hear if we're on the same page.
So this is what I would say. I would say outside of the 80s, it's very few times have separated themselves, with the exception of the early 2000s. I think the early 2000s is the only other time.
Like 2000 to 2010?
Yeah. Maybe even 2000, 2008 or something in there. But, like, it's the only time, like, when you think of, like, House of on Haunted Hill or I think it was Cabin Fever or even House of Wax, right? Like, all those ones that had, like, basically they took it out of the woods or whatever, and they even, Scream almost fits into it, but Scream was, 96 or whatever, but, like, the sequels, I don't know. It's the only time that, like, it actually feels like I could watch a movie and be like, yeah, this feels like early 2000s, Idle Hands, like that style movie. Kirk, what do you think?
I 100% agree with you. So we're on the same exact page. And I actually listed movies. So 30 Days of Night, 28 Days Later, Insomnia, Jeepers Creepers, Trick or Treat, Saw, 28 Weeks Later, Let the Right One In, Exorcism of Emily Rose, Freddy vs. Jason, Martyrs, Insidious, Halloween, Rob Zombie, and Slither. Those are some top-end movies right there. And that's all between 2000 and 2010.
But I feel for me, I think of, like I said, so
you're thinking like late 90s. Like,
no,
like
House of Wax, early 2000s, House on Haunted Hill, early these are remakes, not the originals, obviously. Disturbing Behavior, Idle Hand, they all. When was Final Destination? When did that come out? Was that early 2000s?
Jason's our timekeeper. What is it, Jason?
Final Destination.
I thought that was.
He's keeping time. He can't look.
Final Destination was in the 90s.
Was that 90s? All right.
Yeah, and Idle Hands was 99, by the way.
Final Destination, the first one?
Final Destination was 2000. Yep.
Was it? And the second one
Final
was
Destination 2, 2003. Yep. Part 3 was 2000. So, yes, they're all early 2000s. Like, those are all those, like, that type of, like, group of high school kids together, like, doing something. Like, it just feels it's all early 2000s. And
Idle Hand was 1999.
Yeah, so I bet you want to know what, like,
but it's in that same era.
It's in that same era.
Right there.
It's like if you told me Frankenhooker felt like a 1980s movie, I'd say, yeah. Why wouldn't it, right? Yep. Like, so Jay, what do you think?
I agree with you guys. 2000 to 2010 would be the best decade for sure. But I also have the 70s in there as well. I think there's a lot of really good movies that came out in the 70s as well that kind of got you like pre-gamed for what we saw coming for the 80s and so on. So, and a lot of our sequels that we saw 2000 to 2010 were from movies back in the 60s and 70s.
The 70s really the start of, or the heart of when Hammer was big. Was that the 70s or more the 60s?
That was the 60s. 50s and 60s.
I thought that was 70. I thought that was
that was like early, yeah.
I thought it was 50s and 60s.
That's British horror, which is very pretentious as well, too. So, but there are a lot of nudity, a lot of good stuff.
So,